My name is Roy Henry Vickers. I'm a Tsimshian Haida artist, born way up in the north in a little village called Kitkatla, and spent a lot of my life on Vancouver Island, not far from Washington there, so got to know a lot of people from down that way.
Yeah, and thanks for calling. I just, like I was telling you, I just really love your artwork, and I wanted to know how you got started, and I mean, you can feel the spirit in your art, and it's for people that want to view while we're talking. We got about 20 minutes, and wow, if you go to Roy Henry, I'm going to spell it RoyHenryVickers.com. You can check out. You go into prints, and or you can check out the whole website. But I'm looking at some of the prints, Roy, and I love the use of color. What kind of medium do you use, and when did you start?
Oh man, let's see. Let's start from the beginning. When I was 16 years old, when my family moved from northern British Columbia down to Vancouver Island, and I got stuck in this big school called Oak Bay, and I was the only Indian kid in the school, but I didn't know that because I didn't grow up with discrimination. And when I first came across discrimination, I didn't know what it was. And when I found out what it was, that these people in the city thought that all Indians were lazy and drunks and they lived on welfare, I actually laughed because I grew up in this little village on this island, and liquor was not allowed. It was a dry reserve, and I never saw a drunk till I was 14. There was no such thing as welfare in those days. And if you didn't hunt and fish and have a trap line and go and gather wood, well, you didn't eat, and you were cold in the winter. So I didn't know anybody who was lazy. So I took it upon myself in those early days at the age of 17 to find out more about Tsimshian, Haida, and Kwagule people, and start to teach the world about it. So that's how I became interested in the art, because I just saw this incredibly beautiful art form from my ancestors. And I lived in Victoria, where the Royal B.C. Museum is, so I got to study a lot there and spent a lot of time with anthropologists and ethnologists. And the more I learned about my father's people, the more proud I felt about who I was. And I've been on this road studying the art and creating my own creations ever since. So that's, let's see, I'm 68 now, so yeah, 50 some odd years.
Still pretty young. Yeah.
Yeah. And I paint with acrylics when I do paint. I design a lot. I'm a writer, a storyteller, and the storytelling brought me to a point where I began working with a biographer because of my age, and he came to some storytellings and got me all excited about producing books from the stories, and so now I have a number of books out, one called Raven Brings the Light, which was a bestseller in the Northwest last year, and then I came out with a book called Cloud Walker this year, and it became the #1 bestseller. And it shows me that people are so interested all over the world about the art forms from the Northwest Coast.
It's so much as the sacred geometry. You can see it in the forms and how, all of nature is, you can see nature.
It's incredible. Yeah, everything's so connected to the earth. And there's a quote I always use from Chief Seattle when he spoke, when he put together his speech about the world and the relationship to the earth. And basically what he said was, we humans didn't create the web of life. We are just a part of it. And what we do to that web, we do to ourselves. And so that has kept me on this love of Mother Earth, knowing that my ancestors are part of the earth, and one day I will be too. And so you can't walk on the earth without having a great deal of respect, because you're walking on the dust and bones of the ancestors. And also it talks about, our culture talks about the creator of all of this beauty. And so if you're working as an artist and you're looking at your creativity and you're connected to inspiration, I've learned that the word inspiration comes from the Latin inspiritus, which literally means the breath of the creator being breathed into you. And so if you're connected to the land and you're always looking for inspiration, it comes. And when it comes, what you create is greater than you and all of your teachers and all of your ancestors. And that just gives me goosebumps every time I even make that statement.
It's amazing. And I also love what Dave Suzuki said, that Roy Henry Vickers' artwork consistently reminds us of the interconnectedness of everything in the world, what you just said. And it's very true. And I was just wondering, like, wonderful use of color. How do you get started on a piece?
Well, first of all, there's another little secret. Well, it's not a secret, but there's another little insight that very few people know about. I'm partially colorblind, and the most common saying or the most common comment that's made is, "I like your bold use of color. Where do you get that color from?" And I always say, well, that's what I see. And then when I explain that I'm partially colorblind to all hues of color, so the color that I see is strong because I don't see all the subtleties of the color. So when I paint what I see. And obviously people have liked it for 40 years, and I just keep on doing it.
Yeah, it really is amazing use of the color, and that explains it. And I mean, it really does come out at you. And also, like, they're very alive. When I look at them, and I mean, they just stand out. I was looking at some of your Solstice pieces and some of the canoes that you draw, and the water, and they just feel like, I can just say for myself, I feel like I'm right there.
Yeah. Well, another thing that I've always worked at and kept in my consciousness is when the great speakers speak and the great storytellers tell their stories, they are emotionally involved with the communication, and so that emotion is felt by the listener. So it's the same with art. And again, it goes back to inspiration. If you create from inspiration, then the very few skills that we have as human beings, they are all brought to a height that is beyond us. And the person who's looking at what you're doing, if they are connected the same way to the land, and they're moved by the land and by the seasons. There's no bad weather. There's just inappropriate clothing, is what I say. So the seasons of spring, summer, fall, and winter, they all bring their own beauty. And if you connect to the beauty, then you as an artist, you create from that beauty. And when you put yourself into it, people feel it. They feel the spirit and the emotions that you create with.
Absolutely. And you're a painter, but you're also a carver, and you're also a basket maker. And what is I mean, I know that it looks like you use cedar, but with your baskets, like this one that you have here, I don't know if I can pronounce it right, Maclean hat? Is that how you say it?
Maclean hat. Oh, no, I didn't weave that. Oh, no, I would never. That was the one Maclean hat that I have was made by one of the old weavers. She's gone now. And Maclean was a famous New Channels chief. So they knew him in Washington. Before the borders were there, the Olympic Peninsula and the west coast of Vancouver Island were all the same territory and the same nation of New Channels people. They lived there. And Maclean was one of their greatest chiefs. And so the weavers of the Vancouver Island and the Olympic Peninsula who weave those incredible cedar hats from cedar bark. When the hat gets wet, wood swells, and when the wood swells, it seals the hat, and it actually becomes a rain hat. Your head never gets wet. And so this lady made me one years ago and came to the gallery one day, and she said, "Will you buy this for me?" And I said to her, her name was Jessie Webster, I said, "Jessie, and I will buy that from you, but I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to keep that for myself." So I still have that hat.
All right.
Yeah.
In your gallery is located, it says here in B.C.
Tofino.
Yeah.
Yeah, right across from the Olympic Peninsula. Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of the people that I came to know when I was living down on the island, there were a lot from Washington. The Lummi people who had a basketball team, they were incredible basketball players, so I got to know a lot of people from there. But I was commercial fishing. I kind of got out of the art world in 1979 and 1980, and I bought my uncle's fishing boat, and I was fishing the west coast of Vancouver Island, and that's how I wound up in Tofino. And in September of 1980, when I tied my boat up at the dock in Tofino, after 2 years of really, really hard work on the fishing grounds, I just thought to myself, well, if I worked half as hard and half the hours that I put into fishing, I think I would do really good as an artist. So I settled down in the little sleepy village fishing town of Tofino and eventually built my art gallery there, and the rest is history. It's actually one of the most traveled private galleries in Canada, probably the Northwest. Over 500,000 people a year go through the doors of the gallery, and many from all over the United States and the Northwest.
It's an amazing story. For you the time to get there. So get back to the process of painting or carving. Do you? I know some of us. Myself, when I do anything, I'll see something or whatever, and I don't do it as much as I used to, but I'll be inspired from. I guess all of us are from our surroundings. But what inspires you to get started? How's that process?
Everything. I never know when I have a sweat lodge, and I'm a pipe carrier, and so I'm spiritually connected to the land as well, right? When you have a sweat lodge ceremony, you look to the four directions, and you talk about the four seasons, and you talk about the children and the women and the men and the elders, and you really connect yourself to the land and to the ancestors. And so I never know where inspiration is going to come from. Could come from this conversation you or I are having, or it could come from a walk out in my backyard tomorrow. And all I am is like I heard Mother Teresa say this once, and it's kind of the way I feel. I just would love to be a pencil in the hands of God. That's a beautiful way to put it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's amazing, and we can see from your artwork that you are, and some of the latest. I don't know if these are your latest, but like a lot of bowl.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Is that there? Looks like the orca.
Yeah.
And how did you get started on that one?
Well, which one? A lot of bull?
Yeah.
Oh, that was from taking some friends out to see the sea lions, and I grew up on the ocean, so I'm so at home on the sea. And when I was out on the boat one day taking them to show them these sea lions, I was telling a story about when I was a child and we had this pet sea lion, and we called him Ben because our word for sea lion is Teban. So I shortened it from Teban to Ben. And I was telling this story, and we came to this place where there's this big blonde bull sea lion sitting there like he's the king of the castle. And I looked at that and just grabbed my camera and took the picture, and I continued on with my day. And when I came back and I went into the gallery and I took my camera and I looked at all of the photographs, there was this story about, or this image of this bull. And somebody that day had said, you have so many stories that you're telling. Sometimes I'm so overwhelmed by it all that I'm not sure whether it's just a lot of bull or whether all of these stories are true. So I laughed and I thought, I'm going to do that piece and I'm going to call it a lot of bull.
That's awesome.
So you never know where it's going to come from, eh?
Yeah.
Orca, I'm actually working on this book, and it's called Orca Chief. And it's too long a story to tell here, but it's the next book I'm working on. So I'm always in touch with the orca when I'm in the ocean, because they're just such incredible animals, and they move me. And the orca is one of my crests.
That's exciting. And so we just got a couple more minutes. I just wanted to know if there was something on your heart that you would like to share with our relatives. And again, I really enjoy. I love your artwork, and I just love to view all the things that you come up with.
Well, what I say as a Sweat Lodge leader is that the Creator gave us the sky as our father and the sun that shines in it each day. And the Creator gave us the earth as our mother. We are all family. It doesn't matter what language you speak or what country you come from. We are all children of the earth, so we're all family. And to me, there are so many artists in the world, and I've met so many who are far more gifted than I am. However, what I've learned is the harder you work at something, the better you become. And so if there are people out there who are looking at the art world and thinking of this is the way I would like to make my living, it is one of the most beautiful and rewarding ways that you can live your life that I know of. And I feel privileged and honored to be continuing this after 40 years as a professional artist. And at 68 years of age, I hope I'm doing it for another 30 years.
I think you will. And again, I appreciate everyone, and people can go to, it's called the Eagle
Airy Gallery.
Yeah, and it's at royhenryvickers.com. And again, thanks for sharing with us this evening.
My pleasure.
All right, you have a good evening, and I hope that we stay in touch.
I sure hope so, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You're listening to KAOS 89.3 in Olympia, and we were just speaking with Roy Henry Vickers, and just check him out. His artwork is really amazing, and I've enjoyed following him for a little while now, and so thanks for